Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land that I've heard of once in a lullaby. Somewhere over the rainbow, skies are blue, and the dreams that you dare to dream really do come true. I'm glad you recognize that because this is TEDx Youth, not TEDx Nana, so thank you so much for that. So, you might have recognized that song from the 1939 film, The Wizard of Oz. Originally sung by actress Judy Garland, the song comes after protagonist Dorothy Gale is told by her Auntie Em to go find yourself someplace where there isn't any trouble. Dorothy muses, "Someplace where there isn't any trouble? Do you think there could be such a place, Toto?" Admittedly, as a child, I was obsessed with The Wizard of Oz. I had a VHS recording with the ads and everything. So I really connected with Dorothy and how she dreamt for a life beyond the black and white of her home in Kansas. I too dreamt about finding myself in Technicolor cities and meeting people I could follow my own yellow brick road with. Maybe building a home, having a family, falling in love, and growing old surrounded by people I cared for the most. So as I grew up, my love for the song and singing it also grew. So I sang it from my childhood into my adolescence, and embarrassingly, into my university years when I started studying a Bachelor of Music majoring in ethnomusicology. Repeat after me, ethnomusicology. Almost got it that time. So ethnomusicology, for those who don't know, is the study of music in its social and cultural contexts. So it looks at art music, pop music, and folk music, and kind of interrogates what it says about the society in which it was created. So as I delve into my studies, I realized almost every political movement has some kind of a music or an anthem that goes hand in hand with it. So whether that be flamenco from Spain, mbalax from the Gambia, or even hip hop in the US, music was this incredibly universal thing that was shaped by the socio-political context in which it was made. Then the penny dropped. I realized why I had been so obsessed with Over the Rainbow. It was an anthem for the Pride movement well before I was born. It seemed that my taste in music was queer before I even knew I was queer. But what was it about this story? What was it about this song that really connected with me as a child? And what did it mean if I liked singing it? So I put on my ethnomusicology hat and I dug deep. I'm a bit of a history nerd, so please bear with me. It's 1939. Yip Harburg and Harold Arlen come together. Yip Harburg, the lyricist, and Harold Arlen, the composer. They come together to write Over the Rainbow. So Yip Harburg, as a lyricist, was known for his leftist leanings and his social commentary. He was the youngest of 4 children born to Russian Jewish immigrants, so he was well known for being a gender champion, a racial champion, and a bit of a unionist. So in this same year that Yip and Harold came together to write the song, it was also the year that World War II broke out, and some of the worst human rights atrocities were committed in Europe. In concentration camps, Jews and other minorities were kept against their will and denied their basic human rights. Beyond the tattooing system, the SS had come up with a labeling system to label the minorities they kept in these camps, mostly through colored inverted triangles. So if you had an inverted green triangle, it meant that you were a criminal. A red one meant that you were a political prisoner. A black one meant that you were asocial, so a Roma or a nonconformist, and a purple one meant that you were a Jehovah's Witness. And amongst these prisoners were also homosexuals, and they were labeled with a pink inverted triangle. Now, unsurprisingly, Nazi positions on eugenics and gender really made for a hostile policy against homosexuality. In 1933, 6 years before the breaking out of World War II, the Nazis looted and violently shut down the Institute of Sexual Studies in Berlin, burning their extensive collection on the streets. Unknown numbers of queer women and men and otherwise fled overseas, and some even entered into marriages as to appear to conform to Nazi ideology. The thriving queer culture in Berlin was now lost. Probably most devastatingly, 10 to 15,000 men accused of homosexuality were deported to concentration camps. Here, they were often castrated and subject to medical gruesome experiments. Considering the socio-political world in which Yip and Harold came together to write this song, it's no wonder the lyrics talk about some place where there isn't any trouble. Throughout the 20th century, as the Pride movement in the US caught traction, as did the knowledge about this period and the treatment of homosexuals under the Nazi regime. So much so that in the 70s, in Miami, a group of gay rights activists started wearing that inverted pink triangle. In their own words, it was a reminder of the past and a pledge that history would not repeat itself. Suddenly, gay rights activists everywhere started adorning the same triangle that was used to discriminate against them in concentration camps. Meanwhile, in California, Gilbert Baker, who was a drag queen and gay man, was thinking about a different symbol for the community, something that didn't rely on a Nazi tool of oppression. So, in 1978, at the San Francisco Gay Freedom Day Parade, a rainbow flag first appeared. So now a rainbow is seen as a universal symbol of the Pride movement. It's collected some incredible meanings over its uses in multiple contexts over time. So in ethnomusicological terms, repeat after me, ethnomusicological terms. That was actually pretty good. Ethnomusicological terms, what I was experiencing was semantic snowballing. So this is when a symbol or a piece of art or a song appears in different contexts and actually starts collecting the meanings from those contexts, bringing it into the future. So our rainbow had become this amazing symbol of a dream to be accepted, respected, and equal, no matter who you are and who you love. Well, this is still my dream. In fact, this is the dream of every LGBTQIA+ person. You might say to yourself, a dream? Well, we're not sleeping anymore. You've got marriage equality. Isn't that it? Well, let me explain to you my experience of the universal dream that I dreamt with Dorothy when I was a kid. When I was dreaming about building a home, I didn't realize that statistically, I was more likely to experience homelessness than my cis-het counterparts. I was also more likely to experience homelessness at a younger age. And the primary reason for this would be either being kicked out of home or running away from home due to fear of rejection. When I dreamt of having a family, I didn't realize that I may have to navigate non-government organizations who could legally discriminate against me and other prospective parents based on sexuality and gender. I didn't realize I could be holding down a job to support said growing family, a job from which I could be legally fired for being who I was. When I dreamt of falling in love, I didn't dream about the anti-equality campaigns of the 2017 marriage plebiscite. I just dreamt of falling in love and traveling the world with my partner. Now I plan my trips around whether my girlfriend and I can book a hotel room together and stay there without being outed, whether we could hold hands in the streets that we visit without being reported, and what would happen if we were. When I dreamt about growing old, surrounded by everyone that I loved, I didn't realize that statistically I was more likely to die a young death, and that the leading cause for this death would be suicide. Admittedly, I am one of the lucky ones. Yes, I am a queer woman, but I'm also a cis woman. I'm also a white Australian woman. I'm an able-bodied woman. I'm a woman with an education. For multiply marginalized people, the world is far less kind. In fact, today, in 71 countries, it is still illegal to be LGBTQIA+ by punishment of imprisonment, torture, and sometimes even death. Just last month, 2 human rights defenders, Zahra Siddiqui Halmadani and Elman Shidbar, were sentenced to death in Iran. Their crime? Action and speech in support of LGBT rights, including trafficking charges when they were trying to move queer people across the border out of Iranian territory. You might think, well, this is an extremist country, it's a kind of very specific example, Lily. In 2020, in Cardiff, in the UK, Dr. Gary Jenkins was killed in a homophobic attack. During the trial of his killers, the prosecutors said that it was his search for like-minded men in the park that night that led to his undoing. In Zambia this year, the government has announced a modern-day witch hunt, encouraging community leaders, teachers, and parents to rise up against LGBT. People are dying at the hands of hate around the world, but in Australia, we have our own problems. In Australia today, it is still legal to perform medically unnecessary, normalising surgeries on intersex babies. Last year, the Australian Human Rights Commission heard from adults who'd been subjected to these surgeries, and they had complained of loss of bladder, loss of sexual function, loss of ability to get pregnant, yet no laws have changed. Today, in most states in Australia and in New South Wales, conversion therapy practices are still legal. Conversion therapy is a practice, a form of torture where it aims to change someone's sexuality or gender identity. This can involve electrocution, rapes, beatings, and in some extreme cases, lobotomies, clitorectomies, and castration. Yet, there is still no national ban on conversion therapy. Speaking of national, the 2021 Australian census didn't actually ask any questions about sexuality, gender, or sex characteristics. This was an important chance for the government to gain data about our community and station health services where they were needed. Even if they had asked, trans and gender diverse people still struggle to find identification documents that reflect who they are. So having an ID that doesn't reflect who you are makes it near impossible to apply for Centrelink, to enroll in school, to get a job, even just to go to the pub with your mates. The facts are clear. LGBTQIA+ people in Australia and abroad are not equal. We're still looking for our dream, that someplace where there isn't any other trouble. I look at my cishet counterparts and I think, your dream is a reality. The only difference between us is who we love and who we are. So today, I'd really love to challenge you to stand with us, stand behind the rainbow, our symbol of the Pride movement. Please consider volunteering at an LGBTQI+ organization. Consider making a donation, consider signing a petition, joining a campaign. You can go to Equality Australia's website to do this. We're counting on you to make our dream a reality. Why then, oh why can't I? Thank you.